The shadow that hunts. The night began like any other, silent, heavy, almost suffocating. Fog clung low over the small town streets, wrapping everything in a pale shroud that made even familiar houses look foreign and distant. The lamps on the corners sputtered with a sickly orange glow, each one humming faintly, as though they too were struggling to stay alive. I hated walking home late. Everyone in town said it was safe here, that nothing ever happened in these streets. But I always felt different. To me, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was watchful. Like the town itself was holding its breath. My boots tapped on the cracked pavement, echoing faintly between the dark shapes of the houses. Every step seemed too loud, as if I was announcing myself to something hidden. I kept my eyes straight ahead, forcing myself not to look into the deeper shadows between the houses or at the trees swaying against the fog. But even then, I felt it. The sense that something was behind me. Not footsteps, not breathing, but awareness. Like invisible eyes crawling up my back. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself to keep moving. That's when I heard it, the scream. It tore through the silence like glass shattering, a high, piercing cry of raw terror. My heart seized as I spun toward the sound. Down a narrow alley, I saw her, a woman, maybe mid-30s. Her hair was tangled, her eyes wild. She stumbled backward, her arms flailing as if to ward something off. She opened her mouth again, but the scream broke into a choked sob, and then I saw it. At first, my mind refused to accept it as real. The figure wasn't right, not in the way it moved, not in the way it existed. Its body was stretched too long, limbs thin as branches. Its head hung at an angle, tilted so far sideways it should have snapped the neck. But it kept moving, jerking unnaturally like a puppet with broken strings. In its hand gleamed a knife. But it wasn't metal, not really. The blade shimmered with a black sheen, shifting like oil on water. It was alive, somehow, humming with a low vibration that made the air taste like iron. The woman ran. She bolted toward the street, her shoes slapping the ground. But she didn't make it far. The shadow didn't chase. It didn't need to. In an instant, it was simply there, standing before her, cutting her off. Reality bent around it, like the space between where it stood and where it appeared it didn't exist. She tried to scream again. The knife plunged into her chest. Her cry died on her lips. The sound cut short, like a record scratched mid-song. She crumpled, blood spilling dark into the dirt. I froze. My entire body locked in place, my breath caught somewhere between lungs and throat. I wanted to move, to scream, to run, but I couldn't. I could only stare, and then it turned toward me. The thing's head twitched in that unnatural angle, black pits where eyes should be fixing on me. Its mouth began to stretch open. Wider, wider still. Flesh tore at the corners, black dripping like tar. The mouth became a cavern, a void, a grotesque parody of a smile. I stumbled back, pressing against the cold brick wall, my palms scraped raw against the rough surface as if I could claw my way into it, hide inside stone itself. My lips trembled as I forced words out, barely a whisper. What are you? It didn't answer with words at first. It smiled. Not with its torn mouth, but with sound. A hiss, sharp and low, crawling across the alley like static on broken speakers. Then, clear and cruel, it spoke. I am the silence after the scream. The words sliced through me. They weren't just sound, they were weight. They pressed into my chest, carved into my bones, settling inside me like something I would never escape. And then, it vanished. The alley was empty. The woman's body was still there, her blood still soaking into the ground, but the figure was gone. No shadow, no sound, nothing. My knees buckled. I stumbled forward, my chest heaving, trying to believe what I had seen. But the blood was warm when I touched it. The body was real. I ran. I don't remember the streets I took or how I managed to get home. I only remember the pounding in my ears and the taste of copper in my mouth, like fear had made me bleed from the inside. That night, I didn't sleep. Every corner of my room felt alive. Every shadow stretched too long. I kept hearing faint sounds, the whisper of metal dragging, the low hiss of breath that wasn't mine. My phone screen wouldn't turn on no matter how many times I pressed the button, the clock ticked too slow, the air too cold, and beneath it all, I still smelled blood, that metallic tang, thick and clinging, no matter how much I scrubbed my hands raw. When dawn came, I turned on the news, desperate for confirmation. Surely someone must have found her. Surely the town couldn't ignore that much blood. But there was nothing. No woman. No murder. No body. Not even a missing persons report. It was as if it never happened. Yet I knew. I knew. I saw her die. I heard her last scream cut short. The following days blurred together. The town went on as if nothing was wrong, but I could feel it, something festering beneath the calm surface. Whispers spread of people vanishing, a boy not coming home from school, a shopkeeper locking up and never being seen again, families disappearing overnight, no blood, no signs of struggle, just gone. And every disappearance was near that alley, near where I had stood, near where it had seen me. It wasn't just killing at random, it was circling me. That night I woke at 3:17 a.m. The air was icy, my breath fogging in the dark. Silence pressed against my ears, heavy and unnatural. No crickets, no wind, no hum of the fridge. Nothing. Then came the scrape. Metal against wood. Slow. Deliberate. From the hallway. I sat frozen, staring at the door. My phone was still dead, the screen a black mirror. My body shook, sweat pouring down my temples despite the cold. The scrape grew louder, closer. A blade dragging across the wall, peeling paint, marking its way toward me. Then, the smell, rot, rust, blood. It crawled down my throat, suffocating me. The doorknob rattled once. I pressed myself into the corner of the bed, my nails digging crescents into my palms. My heart hammered so loud it was the only sound left in the world. The door creaked open, and there it stood, its broken head tilt, its endless black eyes, that torn mouth splitting open again, dripping black ichor onto the floor. I couldn't scream. My throat was locked, strangled by terror. It raised the knife, but it didn't strike. It leaned closer, its shadow spilling into every corner of the room. And in that voice that carved itself into me, it whispered, "You watched me take her. Now you belong to me." Darkness swallowed me whole. When I opened my eyes, morning sunlight poured through the window. The room was clean, the air was warm, no smell of rot, no scrape on the walls. For one fragile second, I thought it had been a nightmare, but then I saw the words, carved into the wood beside my bed, jagged and deep, each letter dripping with meaning I couldn't deny. I thought running would save me. I thought if I left that cursed alley, that cursed town, I could shake it off like a nightmare when morning comes. But nightmares don't stay behind. They follow you. They live in you. I packed a bag, got in my car, and drove until the streets I knew became unfamiliar, until the landmarks blurred into nameless gas stations and neon-lit diners. But no matter how far I went, I could feel it. That weight pressing on my shoulders, the whisper crawling at the back of my skull. I wasn't escaping. I was dragging it with me. The first night on the road, I pulled into a gas station. A tired-looking attendant leaned on the counter, his face drawn and pale under the buzzing fluorescent lights. He asked me if I wanted coffee. His voice was flat, but polite enough. I blinked at him, and for just a fraction of a second, his eyes weren't eyes at all. They were pits of black. His grin wasn't human. I dropped the coins on the counter and fled without the coffee. Back in my car, I gripped the wheel until my knuckles ached. Every shadow stretched too long. Every passing car's headlights flickered just a second too late. And every time I glanced into the rearview mirror, I half expected to see it sitting in the back seat, grinning at me with that endless mouth. By the third night, I hadn't slept. My hands shook constantly, the skin beneath my eyes purple and sunken. I stopped hearing the hum of the road and started hearing whispers. Little fragments of words buried in the static of the radio. You belong, you watched, silence. The murders began soon after. At first, I didn't connect them. A woman vanished from a motel 2 doors down. A boy disappeared in the restroom of a diner where I stopped for water. A truck driver who smiled at me at a gas station was simply gone the next morning. But I started seeing their faces in the glass of bathroom mirrors, reflected in car windows at night. Their mouths open, screaming silently, their eyes wide with terror. And I understood. It was me. I was the tether. Wherever I went, it followed. Whoever crossed my path was marked, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. That night, in a nameless motel on a forgotten stretch of highway, it finally came for me, again. The place smelled of mold and wet carpet. The neon sign outside flickered, throwing red shadows across the room. I pushed the dresser in front of the door, locked every window, and sat on the bed with a kitchen knife in my hands. I told myself I'd fight. I told myself I'd end it. At midnight, the power died. The hum of the old fridge cut off. The neon glow disappeared. Even the ticking of the clock went silent, and then came the smell. That same suffocating stench of rot and rust, thick enough to choke. The scrape followed. Metal against wall, slow, deliberate, dragging closer. I gripped the knife so hard my hand shook. My voice cracked, but I forced words into the dark. Come on, come on! The scrape stopped. And then the lights died completely. It unfolded from the corner, its body stretching unnaturally, limbs grazing the ceiling. The grin split wide, tearing flesh, dripping black ichor onto the floor. I raised the knife. I screamed. Why won't you just kill me? Its head tilted in that broken angle, eyes like endless voids burning through me. Then came the voice, razor sharp, cruel, a sound that was less heard than felt. Because you watched, because you lived. You should not have lived. It lunged. I swung. The blade sank into its chest. For a heartbeat, its form flickered, like smoke torn by wind. But then it leaned down so close I could feel the rot in its breath. And I saw them. The woman from the alley, the boy, the truck driver, their faces stretched across its skin, their mouths frozen in eternal, silent screams. They weren't gone. They were inside it. And I was next. I bolted, throwing myself through the window. Glass shredded my arms as I hit the ground outside. Pain ripped through me, but I ran anyway, barefoot, bleeding, sprinting into the woods. Branches lashed my face, roots clawed at my legs. But no matter how far or fast I ran, the scrape followed, louder, closer. Right behind me, I stumbled into a clearing and collapsed. My chest burned, my breath shallow. Blood slicked my arms and feet. My body screamed for rest, and then the air shifted. It was there. The shadow towered over me, blade raised high, black eyes hollow and endless. The void of its mouth opened wider, and I understood. It wasn't killing to survive. It wasn't killing for vengeance. It was killing to collect. Every soul it claimed was sewn into its body. Every scream it silenced fed its hunger. It was growing, piece by piece, face by face. It leaned closer, whispering with that voice that cut into my marrow. You belong to me. The knife plunged, cold fire tore through my chest. My body convulsed, vision shattering. But there was no pain, only the flood of darkness pressing against me from every side. I fell. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the clearing. I was standing in a black void, endless and suffocating. Faces surrounded me, thousands of them. Stretched across the darkness, mouths frozen in screams that made no sound. Eyes wide, glassy, locked in terror that would never end. And then I realized I was one of them. I tried to move, but my body wasn't mine. I tried to scream, but my throat was sealed. I was trapped, stitched into the fabric of the shadow. My fear, my memories, my soul all swallowed into its endless hunger. And then I felt something worse. I felt it moving. Somewhere in the world, it wore me, walked in my body, spoke with my voice. Someone, somewhere would meet my eyes and be marked. And there was nothing I could do. Because that's what it was. Not a man. Not a ghost. Not even death. It was the silence after the scream. And the last thing I saw before darkness folded over me completely were words etched into the void itself, carved deep as scars across eternity.